Who are the wisdom keepers? So, in this episode, I'm going to officially introduce you to the 12 beings that I work with on the team who call themselves the Wisdom Keepers. If you have not seen me channel, I channel every Wednesday live here on YouTube at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. You can interact or comment or just listen. If you want to ask questions, there's an opportunity to send in a question individually on my website or come join my Ascension membership and you can ask as many questions as you want every single week. So, who are the Wisdom Keepers? How did I meet them? And what information do they bring through for humanity? If you haven't met me, my name is Angie, and I have had several very interesting spiritual experiences my entire life. I came into the world very open, and I arrived to Earth. What I have been able to see in my energy is through a unidentified object or a UFO. There was a UFO that showed up when my mom was 8 months pregnant. And I have since been given visions of arriving within this ship and a part of my frequency coming into a little baby body, which then ended up being me, Angie. And the other part of me resides with the Octarians. So throughout my life, I have had this Octarian being with me. I was not aware that this individual or being was with me until about 4 or 5 years ago. But I always knew there was something with me because I would see it all the time. As a young child, before even probably the age of 4 or 5, I distinctly remember I could draw you a picture of what it looked like. A being in my room. It is a very tall being. It went all the way to the ceiling, so I'm guessing it was 7 to 8 foot tall. It had very long, linky arms, long fingers, long torso, long legs, big feet, and its head was very large and round. And it appeared to have very large eyes and would just stand in my room and watch me. And it really did scare me when I was younger. I will not gonna lie. But I remember telling my parents, there's something in my room and it moves around sometimes. It follows me, it watches me. And they didn't believe me. And so one night I asked my little brother, who's 2 years younger than me, can you come sleep in my room with me tonight and see if you can see this? And he did. And so he has validated in some way that I didn't make this up, but I distinctly remember that being in my room since I was born. And around age 6, 7, 8 is when they stopped being so visible to me. Now, I did see this being in other ways throughout the rest of my life. It often would show up as a shadow figure in my life, not as distinct as it was when I was a child. And now I understand as I've grown up that a lot of the trauma that I had in my early life just like really skewed and messed up my ability to connect with the spirit realm. And so through the lens of trauma, I saw this as dark energy. As I've healed, as I've awakened more, as I've let some of that dense energy through the trauma that I brought into my life go, I've been able to move into a higher frequency connection with this being and understand that this being's name is Annabelle, and she has been with me since I came to Earth. She actually arrived with me as a part of myself, and she is me and as an Octarian in another dimension with the Octarian race. So I was not aware of these things most of my life, but I had always felt different. I was always drawn to the stars. I had no idea that my mom had had a UFO experience when she was pregnant with me until just probably within the last 6 years. And I often would say strange things to people, or I would get messages, or I would see things, or I would hear things, or I could even predict things throughout my whole life. And the connection that I had with energy outside of myself in a non-physical form was always there, but I really struggled with understanding that. And if you have heard me speak about my entire kind of testimony, I spent a lot of time in religion. And so my view of things started to come through that religious understanding, which really distorted the connection that I have with higher dimensional beings. When I've shed some of that and I've opened myself back up to the ability to connect with these beings, this is when I started to have awareness of my connection with them throughout my entire earthly existence and beyond. So, Annabelle is a spirit that came to introduce herself to me about 4 years ago. And the way that she introduced herself to me was very interesting. It was in the middle of the night and I was asleep. And I often, throughout my whole life, I'd wake up and there would be beings in my room. I could see them, I could sense them, I could feel them. I remember one particular time I was in a very deep sleep and I just had the sense that something was standing beside me. I don't know how, but I woke up and I was swinging. I remember I had like a nightstand beside my bed with all this stuff on it, and I just knocked everything off the nightstand because I was scared. Because I literally woke up and I saw this probably 8 foot being standing beside my bed, and I had no idea of my connection with the Octarians at that time or any other dimensional being. And so, of course, I was terrified in that moment. I am less scared of it now. Of course, if they were to show up randomly without warning, which most of the time they do, there's a little bit of like jolting fear that can come up with me, but my connection with them does not scare me any longer. And this is also important for any of us that are wanting to open up to have contact with extraterrestrials or other dimensional beings. They do not want to scare us. So if we are in a fear frequency, they're likely not to come through so strongly to interact with us as they would if they knew they were not going to scare us. So this is my first experience as a human, as a baby, a young child having interactions with this being who calls herself Annabelle. But that particular night that she showed up in my room, I woke up and I saw her walk beside my bed, and she was beautiful. She was bright. She was very clear in the image of how she presented herself. She had on a blue cloak, and the cloak had a hood over her head, and this it was a dark blue colored cloak, very beautiful dark blue with lighter blue flowers on it. And when she got to my door, she turned around and looked at me because she was walking away from me when I saw her. She turned around and looked at me in my doorway, said Annabelle, and then vanished. And that shifted everything in my life at that moment. And when I met Annabelle, I started to have this desire to channel, and I had not had that prior to that moment. And so I started working with Annabelle and I started allowing her to teach me and to work through me. I started holding channeling sessions for friends and for some of the groups I was running online. And over time, I just started to feel really connected with Annabelle, but something felt a little bit off too. And then one day when I was connecting with Annabelle in meditation, she stepped aside. I could like feel her presence step aside. And this new energy came in that was much more stronger, very high frequency. And I heard very gently in my mind, we are the whispers in the wind. We are the wisdom keepers. And it completely shifted everything that I knew about connecting with other dimensions, beings, and channeling for myself. When the wisdom keepers showed up, I had no idea that Annabelle was actually one of the wisdom keepers and that she had introduced them to me. But I started having this desire to start working with the wisdom keepers. And so they began to teach me. They began to give me information about the universe. They began to give me information about dimensions. They started to give me information about humanity, about ascension, about what's happening on earth right now. They started to show me the connections between what has been taught on earth that is truth and what has been taught that is not truth, and what has kept humanity's consciousness low and out of a frequency of being able to connect with their true self. And they began to show me how souls were created and where I came from. So all this information started to come through me and to me that just enhance this wisdom that I had no idea I could access within my soul. And over time, I have had to work really hard to be able to handle their frequency because it's so high. It would exhaust me to even connect with them. And so I just continued to practice raising my frequency, releasing dense energy, releasing trauma, healing some shame that I had held in my body, and opening my frequency up so that I could allow my channel to become more and more pure. And the more love I allow to radiate in me and through me, the more they've been able to communicate with me and show me things. But they hadn't really fully showed me who they were until recently. Just within the last month, they have begun introducing themselves to me. But here's the interesting thing about Annabelle being myself and also a frequency of her being a part of my human experience is she has shown me that when I came to Earth, we were very connected. There was not a lot of separation between the two of us. But over time, as I integrated into the human experience, there was a little bit of a barrier and separation that happened between our energies. And she did that on purpose to allow me to have a human experience so I could learn and become human and relate to humans in a way that maybe I wouldn't have been able to relate with had she not disconnected from me. But in those very early years, I had a very, very strong connection with her and with myself. And I knew that we could heal ourselves. I knew that we could use our mind to move things. I knew that we were very powerful beings, but I don't know that I had the ability or comprehension that other humans didn't know that at the time. There was a very distinct memory that she brought back to me that I had forgot about most of my life. When I was about four, I'm guessing 4 or 5 years old, I was taking a bath, and I remember I had a cut on my left leg, and it was like a cut on the top by my knee, kind of closer to my knee on my the top of my thigh here. And I remember sitting in the bathtub thinking, I can heal that. And I, for some reason, just knew I focused all my energy on this cut, and I started thanking God that it healed. And I started to send loving energy to this cut on my leg. And I don't know how long I sat there and did this, but I remember repeating the same thing over and over and over. And as I repeated it, I literally watched this disappear off my leg. It was almost like it just started to vanish, like from one end to the other, it just started to leave my body. And when she showed that to me, she reminded me that I did that. It was almost like it brought me back into this understanding of the ability that we all have, that I'm here to teach, that I'm here to help other humans get back in touch with. And even the teachings of Jesus as you will do greater things than I, that is what he meant. We have so much ability and capacity within ourselves that we've never accessed because we've been repressed in our energy and our beliefs to understand that we have this within ourselves. So, as I've grown and learned, I have had to open myself up to receive the information. And I know that the wisdom keepers did not uh, share too much with me too quickly because it would have been a little overwhelming. And I probably wouldn't have believed it when these things started to come in the way they did. But about 4 weeks ago, I was in a meditation and they showed up in a way they'd never showed up before. And I found myself standing in what I would call a light circle. It was like I was in the middle and there was just light all around me, a beautiful, beautiful, bright light all around me. And I didn't notice within the light were individual beings. It was just all one energy. And then I suddenly realized that these are the wisdom keepers. I am in the frequency of the wisdom keepers. And when I noticed that this is where I suddenly was brought into my single focus where I focused directly in front of me. And then there was a being standing right in front of me. And the first being that, of course, was standing in front of me was Annabelle. And Annabelle started to show me things about when she was with me in my life, times she's interacted with me, moments that she gave me more of her power or energy or soul frequency, and how those have been integrated over my life into my physical body, giving me more and more ability to work with the wisdom keepers. So Animal came through and let me know she is a messenger. She is a teacher and she has come to Earth as a human to bring higher consciousness, understanding to this Earth so that we can ascend and understand ourselves more as humans. So, Annabelle is the messenger from the wisdom keepers that came to Earth to bring through a teaching about who we are. So, the wisdom keepers literally hold the wisdom of the universe. They are the keepers of wisdom. And I won't go into too much of that in this episode, but that is their role. Once I saw Annabelle, it was like she started to vanish back into the light, and then my focus shifted directly to my right, and I saw another being pop up in my vision. This is a being that I have met before as well, but it showed itself as a female, and it introduced himself as Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a Pleiadian. And Elizabeth plays a role of being a healer on Earth or helping Earth to access the understanding of healing, which makes sense to me why I was able to really access this healing frequency. I believe Annabelle also gave this to me, but the Pleiadian energy is a very healing, loving frequency as they are very much future humans as well. So Elizabeth introduced herself to me and she introduced herself as a healer for Earth and that she works with the Earth's frequency to help healing circulate and move through humanity. And Elizabeth is a beautiful, beautiful blonde woman. And the way that she presented herself to me was in this magnificent, beautiful, sparkling white energy with a beautiful white dress on with a white staff in her hand. And when she presented herself to me, it was almost like angelic like, but very feminine, very gentle and loving and kind. And that is how she presented herself to me. Then she faded, and then I shifted to the next wisdom keeper who is standing in line. And that's when I saw Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael presented himself to me, and he has presented himself to me multiple times throughout my experience. He's the one that came to me and told me I was going to be writing books, which I've written 3 so far, and that I would continue to be writing more books. He distinctly told me I would be writing at least 7 books while I was here on Earth. I don't know what the next few are going to be about, but they assured me that they will tell me when it's time to write it and what it will be about. So I just wait for them to tell me what it is, just like they shared with me the other books that I have written. And the Parables of a New Earth were directly channeled from them. And I believe Michael had a very big role in helping bring that through me. But Michael works with me to help bring truth, to channel truth energy to humanity, to teach and to help guide and to protect us in our mind from the lower frequency thoughts. So the attempts that Michael is doing is trying to teach us and protect us from something that might break us away from our true self. So Michael is a wisdom keeper. Then Michael, his vibration, his energy went back to the light. And the next one that stepped forward, I just saw a spirit. I don't know if you saw that. The next one that just came up was Archangel Raphael. And Archangel Raphael showed up and he mentioned that he is also a healer. He brings healing guidance to humanity. He can be called on to be supported for humanity, but he holds the wisdom of healing as well for the earth. And he knows how to help humans get access to their own ability to heal. So Archangel Raphael plays a very important role with the wisdom keepers as he projects his healing frequency into wherever's needed whenever he's called on to help us heal our thoughts, our energy, so that we can continue to ascend and to awaken as a collective energy. Now, Archangel Raphael blends back into the light. My focus shifts to the next energy, and I see a gray. And a gray being shows up. And this gray being was, I would say, it wasn't a short gray being. It was more of a maybe my height. I'm pretty short though compared to most people. I'm only 5'3". So he was kind of my height, but he did appear to have a masculine energy when he introduced himself to me. And he shared with me that he helps bring transformation and transportation between the earth frequency and higher frequencies. So it's almost like he has a ship or something that helps beings move through different dimensions, and he's able to easily move through those frequencies. But he travel and transportation in the physical realm is what he said that he works with for humanity. And I think is really interesting because as humanity ascends and shifts, we get more and more interesting ways of creating travel. And I do believe that some extraterrestrial beings are helping with that. But for him to hold wisdom of that information, that I don't know if I work directly with him or if he's just part of the wisdom keepers and then he channels along with everyone else. But that is one of the beings that presented himself as one of the wisdom keepers. The gray then moves back into the light, and the next being I see is a blue avian. This blue avian comes forward, and the blue avian basically introduces themselves to me. If you don't know what a blue avian is, it's a being that kind of looks like a bird. Um, I believe that I have had an experience with this blue avian before, and maybe I'll put a picture up here if I can figure out how to do that. But I was on a hike one day and there was a being that I got a picture of that looked very much like a bird that was with me. And but the blue avian came to me and shared that he brings a higher perspective to humanity. He reports and creates scribes and records. So he watches over the ascension, he watches over humanity, and he reports back into the wisdom keepers and to all those involved about what is taking place, and like kind of helps keep records for them. But he has a bird's eye view, is what he described, to help humanity to ascend. The blue avian then moves back into the light, and the next being that came forward to me was a Syrian. So the Syrian then reported to me that this being also helps to keep records. And the way that this being showed this to me was more so through like an Akashic energy, like maybe writing it in the book, helping to keep like the record of how Earth's ascension's happening and the history of it and the future of it. So he brought through this energy of like great wisdom and knowing about anything about the earth that has taken place or will take place, and the evolution that is moving into as it continues to ascend. Then, as he fades, the next being presents himself to me, and it was a Andromedan. And this Andromedan being presented themselves as feminine, and they shared that they work with the wisdom keepers to bring light transmitting energy, holding knowledge and codes for astral remembrance of earth, so, or ancestral energy of the earth. So it's almost like the Andromedan worked with the knowledge of frequencies of what has came to earth and left earth as far as souls. So it's almost like she helped to bring a higher frequency to earth so that souls can ascend here, is what it kind of felt like to me. But she described herself as a radiant light transmitter holding knowledge codes and ancestral remembrance of the earth. And I can't tell you that I have had much connection with this being. I probably maybe have had more than I realized, but when I was relating with it, it didn't feel like it was one of the main beings that channeled through me, unless we specifically asked for that energy to come through. So, but this is a beautiful energy, very feminine and very loving energy, and also presented as a possible future human like being. Then she fades, and the next one that comes to my reality was Jesus. And so Jesus presents himself, and when he presented himself, I hate to admit that I rejected it just because of my history and religion. I was like, I'm not sure about this one. But I remember when he presented himself, I kind of was like, Jesus. And he giggled and he said, of course. Why do you think that I came to earth? I am the keeper of the wisdom that came to earth to share knowledge of ascension. So why wouldn't I be a part of the wisdom keepers? And I was like, you're right. So Jesus is a wisdom keeper. And so he said to me, I hold the knowledge of how to ascend, and this is what I teach humanity. Christ consciousness is about remembering who you are, resonating with the frequency of love beyond the logical human mind. And when you release lower thoughts, higher thoughts naturally come. So Jesus works with the wisdom keepers. I do believe that I have channeled with Jesus before. I know that his energy has showed up to me multiple times, teaching me things, giving me new perspective on things, guiding me with things, and giving me insight about what religion maybe messed up when it came to his teachings. So, yeah, Jesus is one of the wisdom keepers. So Jesus steps back, and I remember I turned to look at the next one, and all of a sudden, the next one started morphing into a whole bunch of different beings. Like it turned into a gray, then it turned into a human, then it turned into like it could be anything. And I got really confused, and I was a little bit nervous when I kept seeing it transform into the new things. And then all of a sudden, it shifted into a reptilian. And then I realized that this was a reptilian and that it had the ability to shapeshift. And I was so intrigued. And this reptilian had such a beautiful, loving, kind energy, but this almost comical, comedian like energy also. And it was almost like it wanted to show me the ability it had to shift into any form it wanted to shift into. And through its thoughts and his understanding of how to do that, it could morph into any experience at any time. It just had to shift its form into that. So this reptilian came to me and said, or presented themselves and said that it basically works undercover here on Earth. And if you were not aware, there are negative reptilians that do kind of control things here on Earth, but this particular reptilian shared that it is an advanced soul reptilian. It has ascended, it has awakened, it has moved through the process of releasing any kind of density, and it has the ability to shapeshift back into the human experience and stay undercover. And as a reptilian, work undercover alongside other reptilians, pretending in a way to be negative, but also attempting to influence those beings that are negative into doing positive things. Or maybe tricking them into doing something that they don't realize is going to be beneficial for humans in the awakening and not necessarily those in control. I do hesitate to share too much about this because I don't want to cause this being problems, or even get out. I'm sure those reptilians here on Earth are aware that there could be undercover ones here, but I also don't want to get that information out too much to cause harm to anybody that might be an undercover reptilian here working on Earth to help things ascend. But I also understand that there could be several beings that have stayed hidden from that kind of leadership in this world. And that's a whole nother topic I can talk about. But if you know anything about the gateway experience or testing children when they were in school, when they, back in the, I'm not sure when they started doing it, but I know for myself it was in the 80s and I was tested. But I've been told by the wisdom keepers that they kept me hidden, so that they couldn't see the energy that I had in me at that time. And I think a lot of star seeds or volunteers that came in were being tested at that time. But those were reptilian energy that came and morphed into a human experience also had to stay hidden. And so there were ways that higher conscious beings helped humans to kind of merge into the human experience. And that's why a lot of star seeds or volunteers have had trauma in their early life in order to bring their frequency more into the human experience so that they could fit in and not necessarily be noticed so much. So, yes, there is a reptilian on the Wisdom Keepers. Then the reptilian stepped back, and the next being that I saw come forward was a praying mantis. And this praying mantis was very kind, but very, very intelligent, very loving. But the wisdom and the knowledge and the ability, like it was so, had so much knowledge and wisdom. I was unable to comprehend it when I interacted with it. But the praying mantis did tell me this particular one, a part of the wisdom keepers, helps keep order over the earth and the life of beings around the earth, and helping like bugs, plants, animals, those kind of things. Not that they don't help humans also, but they kind of work with the elements and the energy of the earth, the plants and the animals and insects and things like that, to bring order and frequency to that, so they can ascend also along with humans. So the praying mantis presented themselves to me. When the praying mantis went back into the light, the next being that came forward was a spider. And the spider came forward and started to show me visions and describe to me, it was almost like it was forming a web and showing me the web of the universe, how all things work together, how all energy is created, how the sunsets, the earth rotation, the bodies of water, the creatures and even elemental things of earth, like all of it is one frequency. And the spider kind of began to show me how it helps keep the order or keep the wisdom and the order of the universe in alignment and works kind of in the energetic field more so than the physical realm. And so I thought that was really beautiful that this came forward. And I did not expect to see any of these beings on this team that I channel, but I particularly didn't expect to see a spider or a praying mantis. Did not expect to see Jesus, did not expect to see a reptilian. I knew that there was a possibility that Archangel Michael was a part of it. I had met Elizabeth. She had came to me in a meditation. So I knew that Elizabeth was a part of the Wisdom Keepers. But outside of that, I did not have all this knowledge just until about a month ago. And I'd asked them multiple times, who are you? Where do you guys come from? How many am I working with? And they've described to me that these are just 12 of the Wisdom Keepers, but there are so many Wisdom Keepers that I will never, ever, ever be able to know every single one, the representations of the Wisdom Keepers, because what they have described to me is they come from any and every system within the universe, any planetary system, any star system, any quadrant or connecting point of energy. Like there's wisdom that comes from every place in the universe, and they gather. And they've showed me that they gather at a point. They don't gather on a planet, they don't gather on like an object, they gather like just like the spider showed me, like this web, there was a point in the universe that they all gather, and it's the same point every time, and they come back and they bring wisdom from where they are interacting. And these particular 12 beings are who are interacting with the Earth's frequency right now to help it ascend. And I just happen to be someone that channels them. And because I'm connected to Annabelle, who is one of the wisdom keepers, I get access to their information and I get to share it with humanity, which I am super honored. And it is such a huge blessing for me, but I also keep it very sacred and I respect it and I honor it. And my goal in this life is to be as pure as I possibly can to allow their information to come through me in order to help humanity to ascend into love, into their true self, so that we can continue to awaken as we move through this process of birthing a new earth. So that is the Wisdom Keepers. And I do channel them every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube. If you want to come and interact with them, come join my Ascension membership. It's only $40 a month, and you get to access the Wisdom Keepers every single week. And as long as I'm free on a Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, I will do it those days. There's only been once or twice I've had to move it to a different day, but that's usually when I am on doing it. If you join the Ascension membership, you get a private Zoom link so that you can ask and interact with the Wisdom Keepers on those calls. If you just watch on YouTube, you can send in an individual question through my website, and it's just $25 to send in a question, and I will make sure one of my team members asked it for you during the channeling. So there you go. That is the Wisdom Keepers, the first time I have introduced them publicly, and I am looking forward to getting to know them more and more as we all continue to raise our frequency together. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I wish you the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. I send you all the universal love. Namaste.